Hey, what's up guys, it's Dan here from CryoNoir, just continuing on this game dev series. Just to recap, first of all I made the Endless Runner, which was from a tutorial done by the Unreal YouTube channel. And then after that on there I also found the Office tutorial as well, which was to make a nice looking kind of office environment using all of the different level editing stuff you could do with Unreal. And then I decided to just kind of go my own way and start actually making something. So that's where I started making the Doom clone. And that was all very well and good. It seemed to be going quite well, and I was feeling quite happy with the progress I was making. Even though by this point I hadn't learned any actual coding, and I hadn't learned very much of anything really, but I still felt like I was making progress, so this was good. I then thought, right, so I need to really start drilling down the coding. So I started looking around on YouTube, trying to find coding tutorials for C++, and I managed to find a couple. I'll just show you, there'll be some links below for some very good tutorials. I got as far as this. Well, I got a little bit further than this, but not significantly further than this. I did a lot of coding. I managed to get some very basic things running, but I was finding it very difficult to kind of join the gaps between learning to input variables and learning to set up arrays and doing some basic things like that, and then how that was going to relate to game assets coming in and things actually happening in Unreal. I was finding that really tricky to do. So I was doing that for a while, quite a while, and then what I decided to do, I thought, right, well I'm also going to need some sort of assets as well. So I started again hunting on YouTube and trying to find some decent software for doing that. Everyone seemed to be leaning towards using sort of things like Maya and 3D Max, but I started to notice some people were talking about Blender. Now Blender was a free piece of software which by all accounts seemed to be very good, so I thought, well I'll give it a go. Went straight to Steam, downloaded Blender from there. This is a ridiculously powerful piece of open source software. You can do just about everything for 3D manipulation. You can create objects, you can rig them, you can animate them, you can do just about everything. In fact, I believe there's been like full feature-length films made using Blender, as well as the amount of use it gets in the indie scene for making 3D assets. It's a very, very powerful piece of kit. I did manage to find some very good tutorials on Blender teaching you how to make just about everything, as well as, you know, lots and lots of demos of what it was capable of doing. A lot of the courses seemed fairly short and nothing sort of too all-encompassing. It was around about this time that I came across Udemy. Now Udemy is a very, very good kind of online tutorial website where they have tutorials on there for just about everything. They're all sort of paid courses generally, but you can learn absolutely all sorts from here and just do like little study courses in pretty much everything. If you've got an interest in something you want to learn, I would recommend going to Udemy and trying to find courses on there, because it's very, very extensive, the stuff that's on there, and they're generally not very expensive either. So I signed up to a Blender tutorial course and started making things. The first part of the tutorials are sort of teaching you how Blender works and showing around the software and the interface. Then they go over some very basic things regarding sort of extruding objects and some fundamentals of 3D modelling. And then after that they get you on with building stuff. The first things you build are just sort of basic cubes and triangles and all that, and then you start having to actually build semi-recognisable objects. Very early on they have you building this plane type thing. I'm not entirely convinced it would fly in the wild, but you know, it sort of resembles an aeroplane. So this was my first ever endeavour into actual 3D modelling and making something. Well, once you've got used to the very basics, after that they ramp up the difficulty a bit, and this is, I think, maybe not the next thing, but certainly one of the ones later than the aeroplane. You have to build this pyramid. Now, I seem to have made a bit of a pig's ear of this looking at it now. The edges of the stairs aren't lined up properly, and well, nobody's getting up those stairs because those are not correct at all. Also, some of the levels seem to be slightly bigger than others as well, in height wise, yeah, certainly down the bottom. So all in all, it's a bit of a fail, that one. It was around about this sort of time that I realised just how much of a mountain I still had to climb. I'd so far unsuccessfully learned how to code in C++, I'd made a very generic Doom rip-off level that had a few lighting effects but effectively no real gameplay other than that you could walk through it, and I'd failed at modelling a realistic looking aeroplane or even a pyramid with some steps that a human could feasibly walk up. At this point I did start to kind of panic a little bit. I didn't really want to go down the line of just going to Epic's asset store and purchasing a load of set dressing and a load of animations and character models and then just all importing them into Epic and then calling it a game. It didn't really feel like I was making a game there. It felt more like I would just be sort of copy and pasting other people's work and then trying to pass it off as my own. So yeah, things were not looking good. I started to do some quick maths as to how long it was going to take me to actually get a game that was playable and that people might be willing to actually play for a prolonged period of time. Now, I spoke to somebody who was actually a professional programmer who worked in the games industry, and he claimed he could teach someone C++ in 2 weeks. Now, he wouldn't make good on that offer even when I offered to pay him on that. So, I mean, I was thinking that was a little ambitious, and I kind of, looking at the tutorials and my progress so far, I kind of worked on a figure of about 6 months. Like, if I could learn C++, so I was confident that I could do everything I needed to do and have a really good understanding of what I needed to do. It's going to take me around about 6 months to get C++ really nailed down. Then when it came to Blender, I kind of figured, well, you know, if I carry on the way I am, maybe within another sort of 2, maybe 3 months, I would have got to the stage where I could happily build something in Blender without having to follow a tutorial, and I could just do that and do the character design. Then after that would come animation and rigging and all that, and again, I had no frame of reference for how long that would take me to learn, but I'm aware that people dedicate their entire life to animation, so I thought, even if I allow 6 months just to kind of really get a good eye in for that, and maybe just so that I could do it to a reasonable level, then that wouldn't necessarily be unfeasible. By that point, I kind of figured within 1 year and 3 months total, I should be in a position where I could actually start building a game. Your first game's going to be terrible, your second game's going to be terrible, your third might not be too bad, and your fourth will pretty much be playable, hopefully, but you're certainly talking around about your fifth or your sixth game before things start really looking good and get into a situation where somebody would be willing to actually play your game, you know, who wasn't obligated to because they're your friends and family. So we're talking a year, just shy of a year and a half, before you're going to get to the stage where you're even going to start making any games, and then who knows how many games you're going to take until you get decent enough. Let's just say you make a game with 10 characters in it. I watched a guy on YouTube building a character from scratch in Blender, and he really knew what he was doing, and it took him sort of about 20-30 hours to make a half reasonable looking character. Let's just say, you know, with the amount of time that I can put into this project outside of work, we're talking maybe 1 month to actually build the character and get them looking okay, and then probably at least 3 times that just to get them all rigged and animated. Then after that, we'd be looking at least another month just to program all the C++ for all of their behaviours and their interactions or anything like that, just so that they could interact in the world and look fairly believable. Right there, you're talking there's 5 months work just for one character, and even in a basic game with 10 characters, that's 50 months, which works out at 4 years and 2 months. So if you add those two up, even if I went straight out of learning right the way to making a very good game, which is highly unlikely, we're still looking at 5 years and 5 months before I would even just have the characters for a game ready and running. That doesn't include building levels or any other assets that they might need to interact with. We're still talking nearly 5 years before I'm getting anywhere like making something that's playable and reasonable. At the time of doing this, I was 33, so for me to get that, I'll be hitting sort of around about 38, 39 years old before I get to the stage where I had some sort of playable game. That's not really an ideal situation to be in, so at this point I was really kind of at a low ebb with the whole thing and really not sure where I was going to go from here. So is that it then? That's the end of my game making journey? I make a couple of things in Unreal and then a couple of things in Blender and give up? Don't be daft. I wouldn't be wasting my time and yours making these videos if that was the end of the story, would I? So come back next time to see where we go from here.